been reporting strange things.
Weird lights, strange phone calls.
Hello?
Hello, John Clark.
Who is this?
What do you do when someone comes into your office and tells you they saw this in their backyard?
My wife saw something. Drew pictures. Just like this. Who showed you this?
Welcome back to the 8th annual Halloween special. I hope you guys are enjoying it so far. Tonight we're going to be talking about a film that had a major impact on me the first time I saw it, and that is The Mothman Prophecies, directed by Mark Pellington. He directed this after he made Arlington Road, and it stars Richard Gere, Laura Linney, and Will Patton. It was based off a very famous book of the same name by a writer named John Keel. He was a paranormal researcher who investigated UFOs and all kinds of things. This technically non-fiction book was an account of John Keel's experiences in Point Pleasant, West Virginia in the late 60s, where a bunch of people reported seeing something that eventually became known as the Mothman. The book is filled with horrifying eyewitness accounts of people saying they met someone who called himself Indrid Cold, who gave them prophecies of the future, some of them bad and some of them good. I actually read this book when I was a teenager and it fucking terrified me. I couldn't get through it the first time. There was something about it that was extremely scary. And it's probably because the book's approach to it was simply a bunch of accounts. It's not like a straightforward narrative, like a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's just, here's experiences that were had during this time, and it's very scary. The film tells a version of events written in the book, but it also expands on some things for dramatic purposes. Richard Gere plays John Klein, sort of like John Keel, the author of the book. He's a reporter who finds himself trapped in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. He tries to leave, and he ends up right back where he started. So he feels like something wants him to be there. And this occurs following the tragic death of his wife after a terrible car accident. Laura Linney plays a police officer in this town, and they work together to try to solve what exactly is going on, because people are reporting seeing something horrifying with red eyes, extremely tall, stalking the town. The first time I saw The Mothman Prophecies, I must have been about 14 or 15 years old. My mom and I rented it from Hollywood Video, and we put it in the player, and I remember being so scared by the film that I actually couldn't finish it. The film has a quality to it that I've never been able to shake. Very few films are able to accomplish it, and that is just being eerie. This is an unsettling, creepy film that chills me to my bones. A horror film can make you jump. It can make you scared for the characters, but very few have the eerie atmosphere of The Mothman Prophecies. And you can thank Mark Pellington for that. The way he edits this film, the shots that he uses, the quick flashes of red light at just the right moment. An off-putting sound design, all of this combines to make a very creepy movie. And I remember the scene that stopped me when I was a teenager. You don't see anything. It's one of the best parts of the Mothman Prophecies. You never really see the Mothman. He only appears in quick flashes. And even when he does appear, it's not like this grand shot. It's sort of like something that seems like only the characters that are supposed to see him might see. He's not even really there. It was this scene where a woman describes her encounter with the creature.
It was right here. There was only a foot or so between its head and that branch. That makes it, what, about 8 feet tall?
Yeah.
I was getting ready for bed and I just happened to glance out the window. At first, all I could see were these two red eyes. I kept looking at it. I couldn't stop. I've never had that feeling before, like I couldn't move. And then I guess it just took off.
For whatever reason, the buildup of suspense over the brilliant first 30 minutes leading to that scene really set me on edge as a teenager. And that's always stayed with me. The idea of not actually seeing it, having someone describe it, and then getting almost a POV perspective of it. The suggestion, the implication of its presence is far more frightening than if they had cut to some CGI thing flying outside of her window. All tension would have drained entirely from the movie, but keeping it from that POV, it chills you. For some people, The Mothman Prophecies is a very disappointing movie because it's not a monster movie. It's really a movie about grief and about mental trauma and getting over loss. and how you can go to such great lengths and great extents for answers that don't exist. And sometimes you might stumble across something that you didn't expect to stumble across, but that doesn't mean that it's going to make it any better. And I think some people just wanted to see a big 7-foot monster with red eyes. And while you do get flashes of things, it's not very satisfying if you're just going to watch a monster movie. Mothman Prophecies is much more cerebral than that. It really wants to get inside your head and fuck with you.
Last night, I woke up with the worst headache I've ever had in my life, and I went into the bathroom to get some aspirin, and I happened to look in the mirror, and I swear to God, I see something I can't describe, but it sure as hell is not my reflection.
If they had cut to some stupid Slender Man CGI horrible meme face, I would have laughed. But you don't see it. You just see this really traumatized man who's tortured by this image that he saw in the mirror the previous night. And you immediately think of the most horrifying thing. Just days before they started shooting, the production company slashed millions off of Mark Pellington's budget, and he was furious. And I can't blame him for being mad, of course, but whatever he did to hold back, I think it worked in the film's favor. Richard Gere is also really good in the film. I wish that he was in more horror or thriller scary movies. He's very strong here, as is Laura Linney. And Debra Messing, although she isn't in the film very long, has one of the film's scariest scenes. This woman is dying. She's just been in this car accident, and she has this brain disease that's forming. And she's the only person now who has seen this thing, but no one will believe her. And she's gonna die in like days. And this thing is just in her head. To me, that is so much more scarier than some shape that might jump out of the walls or something with some loud music. You know what I mean? Like just that notion of impending death while having this terrifying image in your mind. And you know that that's probably going to be the last thing you're thinking about before you go. That's fucked up. And I haven't even talked about the film's best scene yet, which is a conversation over the phone with John Klein and Indrid Cold.
Where's my watch?
In your shoe. Under the bed.
He's able to predict every single thing that Klein does over the phone and proves who he is and proves that he really is someone who's clairvoyant or who can give prophecies of the future. And he basically curses John Klein with this information, this weight of a need to save lives. Unfortunately, most all of these great scenes happen in the first half of the movie. The last half of the film is nowhere near as well paced as the first. Things slow down considerably when he has to find the cliche paranormal investigator who gives him all of his answers about this thing. Then he goes back to him a second time and the film slows down even more. And we get a lot of double beats emotionally where we had already gone over this territory at one point and we're going over it again and we're going over it again. But the energy picks back up again with a tremendous bridge collapse sequence over the Ohio River, which actually did happen. Although this sequence can sometimes feel a bit too big and mainstream for the rest of the movie. There's a sort of rogue, independent quality to this mainstream movie throughout most of it until this bridge collapse sequence, which, as I said, is handled very well, but it can sometimes feel kind of detached from the rest of the movie. The Mothman Prophecies, at least for the first 60% of the film, is on track to be one of the best horror thrillers of the 2000s. It loses its way a little bit towards the second half, but it does pick back up in the end, and I do think it is one of the creepiest movies ever made. I'm going to give the Mothman Prophecies a B+. Although everything doesn't quite work in this movie, I don't think there's another film like it. And I do think it achieves something that's very difficult to do, and that is have a quality of unsettling, chilling creepiness for the whole runtime. Guys, thank you so much for continuing to watch the 8th annual Halloween special. I'm having a really good time doing this, and I hope you guys are having a good time watching them. As always, if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.